Greetings, Neuse Little Pod listeners. This is your host, Matt Gore, reminding you to please like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast on your available podcast apps such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and any other podcast app you can think of. Share our episodes on Facebook and let us know what you think with a comment or review. Now, please enjoy the show. Good evening and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast. This is an audio program talking about the backstage antics and stories of running a small-town community theater on the banks of the Neuse River located in Smithfield, North Carolina. We lovingly refer to the old girl as the Hut. We hope you enjoy. Good evening and welcome to the Neuse Little Theatre Podcast. We have a very special guest for you this evening, a repeat guest, and we are going to talk about some Benson Little Theatre stuff with him, and also we're going to segue in, for you TCM watchers, we're going to segue into talk about old movies, most of which are based on plays, but honestly wherever the conversation goes about old movies we'll embrace. It's another hot one up in the booth today, folks. It's a little bit cooler than last time, but it's still kind of uncomfortable here, so just bear with us the best you can. Right, Mita?
Sure.
There you go. All right, so today with me, I have sitting across the table from me a distinguished gentleman who has been like a lightning rod on the, and I want to talk to him a little bit about that too, like a lightning rod on the quote-unquote scene here at the community theater scene. He just kind of showed up 5 years ago, and I keep hearing his name, and obviously I had to eventually meet him and stuff like that. So sitting across with me is D.H. Johnson.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I don't know if I'm a lightning rod or just...
No, man, I keep hearing your name over and over again. I'm just like, I was just looking at the Ava Gardner, which is coming up in October, the 100th anniversary of Ava Gardner's birth.
Yeah.
And there's like a big event happening at the Clayton Center where they have like an orchestra. And I was just happened to look at it, I was just like, oh, hosting D.H. Johnson. I'm like, how do you know?
Todd Johnson, no relation.
Uh-huh.
Not that I know of. We had worked together at the Benson Little Theatre a couple times doing some variety shows, and he was very nice to ask me to do it, and I was very happy to say sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, you came back from New York about, 5 years ago? Like, what was the story there?
7 years ago, something like that. What's the story? I was in New York. I was there for about 10, 11 years, pursuing theater. Mm-hmm. Acting of any kind, and I was so successful, I packed up my bags and all the money, and then I came back to Benson. My mom had not been well, so I came back to take care of things for her, and I stayed.
Well, we're glad. You're not. You're vice president at BLT. Is that what you're doing?
I am the chairman now.
Okay.
Yes. It's like the president, only with no power.
Oh, good. So we're going to talk about you guys' season coming up next year. You guys have 3 shows that you've chosen. And while you're here, we're just going to talk a little bit about them. So coming up, your first show of next season would be...
The 2023 season will start with, it's a variety... Is it a variety show? Yes, it's a variety show first.
Need me to pull it up online?
No, I've got it. I can remember it, if I could just remember the name of it. It's a Benson's Got Talent 4. We have done these talent shows. It's sort of a competition show that will start the season. And then we will do the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which you guys did.
Yes.
Which is marvelous. And then we have a play comedy called Southern Fried Funeral, and then Clue on stage. Mm-hmm. And those are the big shows for the season.
I will be directing Clue on stage at the end of next year.
I'm excited.
Yes. They were nice enough to let me do this, and I remember our text exchange because when I saw that you announced your season, I texted you. I was like, "Oh, this looks pretty good. I wish you guys were doing 2 musicals though." And then you quickly texted me back, "Oh, Clue isn't the musical. It's a different adaptation called Clue on Stage, which is getting popular recently, and it's based on the movie. It's, the script by Jonathan Lynn from the movie. And I was just like, really? That's a horse of a different color right there. And so I did a little bit of research and stuff like that, and we talked back and forth, and it just kind of snowballed into me directing it. And it's my first time directing with you guys, so I'm really excited. I know there's some good work being done there in Benson, and I hope I can live up to the expectations.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I've seen your work, and it's really good stuff.
Well, I appreciate it. I try anyway. Okay, so that's the next season coming up at Benson, and if you want to, just go on their website at bensonlittletheater.org.
.com.
And BensonLittleTheater.com and check out that upcoming season. It looks to be exciting.
Yes.
Okay, and now the real reason we're here is to talk about old movies and theater stuff and see where the conversation takes us. And I know a lot of you older listeners out there are fond of TCM, and even though I don't have cable, I am fonder of older movies. You can find a lot of good older movies on apps like HBO Max and Tubi. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. TUBI shows a lot of old movies that are pretty good. There's a lot of crap, but there's also a lot of gold to be mined in that. And since old movies is a very broad term, we decided to kind of condense it to movies based on plays. Not necessarily movie musicals. That'll be a different whole other podcast. And it's not my area of expertise at all. But movies based on plays.
But I have a couple I'm going to mention in the conversation. There's a couple that I just really love.
Okay, cool.
But that'll come up in a little bit.
All right. So yeah, let's get into it. Movies based on plays. I have a list right here, but why don't you start us off there, DH? Not to put a spotlight on you.
When you said this was the subject, I thought, okay, let me figure out which ones are my favorites. And I realized that on my list there are so many that were originally plays that I really like. And then I thought, why is that? And it's always been this case. And these are films that I was coming up with, I've known about since I was in high school. And I thought, this is just sort of abnormal because I don't know very many high school kids that would even watch anything other than, something that's a superhero film or a animated something or something, And I thought, why is that? Why do I like that style? And I do know that plays are obviously it's a writer's medium. It's all about story and words on stage, and the films are a director's medium,
more visual
editors and cinematographers, sound men, And I thought about it, and I thought, okay, I get it. I am 50 now, so I grew up as a very young child, say mid-70s to mid-80s, when we didn't have cable till almost the mid-80s or early 80s. So in those days, films were all over television, network television, where you see ball games all day long now on the weekends. What you would see then were movies. It would be in the mornings. It would be the noon movie. It would be the afternoon movie, the late night movie, the late show, all of that. And they were older films. And these films were basically dialogue-driven works. So it was basically put in my bottle to I guess be nourished by films that were not necessarily special effects and explosions, but I listened to dialogue as a kid watching these films, and so I was in tune to hearing people work out their conflicts through conversations. And so those styles of films became what I think I have a more fond taste for, I guess.
Yeah.
I like all films. It's not that, I'm not being a film snob here or anything. I can watch junk and I can watch...
Well, if you think about it, because, you read your favorite book and then they make it into a film.
Sure.
It's almost always disappointing, but whatever. But if you think about it, a script is just sort of the same thing, except it was perfect. It was made to be seen, whereas a book's not.
Right.
So it would make sense that a script makes a very good movie because it was actually made to be done in 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And thinking about, so this leads into my first choice of just one LA. It's not that it's my favorite, but I can't tell you how many times I was probably 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range. Probably 3 or 4 times I saw it with my parents, because every time it was on the Sunday afternoon movie on Channel 11 or something, I saw this one probably 3 or 4 times with my parents between the ages of 10 and 12, 13. Same time next year. Do you know this one?
Not
I'm
yet.
sure you've done it.
It sounds familiar, but I don't think we've done it on stage. I don't
A
think.
Bernard Slade comedy drama. It was Alan Alda and Ellen Burstyn.
Okay.
And they are married to other people. They have their spouses, and they are both on vacation at a bed and breakfast, and they have an affair. And they continue this affair one time a year, every year for like 25, 30 years. And I saw that 3 or 4 times, and I was a kid. I can't tell you that there's a kid out there that would see something like that, or their parents would
Yeah.
even let them see something
Yeah.
like that. But, and it was several years later when I discovered, oh, that was a play, because there are only 2 people in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a 2-person play, and there might be a little secondary housekeeper or something like that.
What was the title of that again?
Same time next year.
Same time next year. I'm not familiar with this. But that is interesting. Well, piggybacking, I was thinking about this earlier today because I saw a trailer for a movie that I was wanting to see. And in the age of blockbusters and superhero movies, I'm kind of just getting tired of superhero movies. They kind of bore me now. I went to go see Thor: Love and Thunder, and it was perfectly fine, but I'm just like, this is just people standing in front of a green screen with costumes, and it's just the same. And
Anything new that you've not seen before happen in the film? I mean, just...
no,
Yeah.
there was some good moments, but Russell Crowe was not good as Zeus, which I thought was kind of sad because I just watched Russell Crowe be magnificent in Gladiator a couple of days before, and then I saw him do this. I'm just like, oh man, what happened?
Have you seen Les Miserables?
I was going to say,
No,
did he
yeah,
sing?
I know. I know what happened
That
there.
might have been what it was.
No, one of the greatest Oscar moments of all time is Sacha Baron Cohen going up on stage, and it was the same year as Les Miserables came out, and he's up there on stage presenting an award for something, and he goes like, yes, we know how to spend our money in Hollywood, hundreds of thousands of dollars for voice lessons for Russell Crowe. That was money well spent. So, but did that, not a side tangent on Russell Crowe, but did that truly ruin his career?
Oh, I don't think so.
I think throwing a telephone and...
I think that was probably it. No, but I can tell you that he says he was the crappy one in that movie. He pretty much fessed up to it.
He still took that check though, right? I mean,
I'm sure. He still cashed that.
but
baby.
anyways, and I'm just jaded, and so when I see a trailer for a movie I actually want to see, it's off the beaten path. It's called... It is a script by Martin McDonough, and I really like him because he did a great play called, he did a couple of great plays, called Pillow Man that I'm actually very fond of,
Yes.
and did a movie called In Bruges with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, and he's doing another movie with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson called like the Brothers of Inishman, which is about two guys on an island that were friends for years, and out of nowhere, for seemingly no reason, one guy just says, we're not friends anymore. And it's about them arguing and being Irish and drunk and on the small island. And I thought about it, I was like, that excites me more to see those two actors go toe-to-toe again, because I love their work so much in Bruges, than almost any other comic book movie that you can name ever that's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And not that I'm not going to be old grump about it and say they're not films. Yes, they're films. A lot of people worked really hard to make those comic book movies, but I'm just a little jaded. I need something mo. I need a little bit something mo.
Yeah. It's run its course for me. But real quickly, I want to add one more thing. I really want to see Batgirl now.
Now you really want to see it because did you hear about this? So Warner Brothers was making a Batgirl movie, and they cast it. It had a Leslie Grace. She's relatively unknown.
They've spent $90 million.
It was $90 million.
Already spent.
It's done. The movie's in the can. They just have to do some effects work and editing probably. And it had Brendan Fraser. It had Michael Keaton playing Batman again. And it was announced 2 days ago that Warner Brothers is shelving the movie, and it's not premiering anywhere, streaming, movie theater, or anything. It's just not. It's going up on the shelf. Mm-hmm.
It's probably the ghost of Yvonne Craig from the TV show.
That's exactly what it is. I'm sure they cited it. No, but it's all part of this merger thing, and we're not going to talk about the merger because it's boring, but Discovery is merging with Warner Brothers, and also 6 6 movies that were on HBO Max are just gone now, including 2 Anne Hathaway. Remember the Anne Hathaway movies? Remember The Witches? The Roald Dahl?
Oh, yeah.
Directed by Bob Zemeckis, a huge name who directed Back to the Future and Forrest Gump. It's gone. Like it didn't exist. That means buy physical media, people. Buy physical media. It's there whenever you want it. You own it.
I learned that a while back with Kindle, because Amazon, if they decide they're going to ban a book, they just yank it, whether you paid for it or not.
Oh, yeah. Games do the same thing.
If you've got it on your electronic device, reading device, even
if
if you
refund
bought it,
you anything,
I don't
or?
think so.
Oh, well.
Censored.
So that's the reason, like, always buy paperback.
Always buy physical media, people.
That's like being kicked out of a library,
Exactly.
I guess.
And it leads into, that's why TCM is so important, because that's why a lot cable was kind of dying, and now maybe it's coming back.
Yeah.
But cable was dying, but the only reason a lot of people kept cable was because of TCM, because that was the only place you could see TCM, because they don't have a streaming service.
Well, and you get a lot of, you get the old ones, but you get them uncut, no commercials.
Right. With great intros, interviews with the stars.
Right, and backstory to it, just the reason
Some
why
context,
it means
yes.
something. Yeah.
Yes. So, piggybacking onto that conversation and back to plays, another one that I knew this was a play, but it's hard to do on stage because of the music. But it's not a musical, I would say. It's by Peter Shaffer, who also wrote Equus, by the way. But the great play Amadeus.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen this play live, but it's so hard to do, like I said, because it's a Mozart piece. And
Right.
you probably have to have like an orchestra to do it justice, right? But
I don't know.
and also remember reading it and remember like, this seems like a little big for, this would have to be like a Broadway thing or a regional thing.
And I've never seen it on stage. I don't know how to compare it, or I've never read it, but the film is extraordinarily
I watched
entertaining.
it about a year ago, and it still holds up very well. And what I like about it is that it's about a guy. It's about something I think a lot of us, maybe not everybody, a lot of us can relate to in theater, is that there's a guy that's really good at his job, but there's somebody that's extraordinary, and it eats him alive. And we all like to. I think that especially with actors, it comes into the competitive side, and also respect. When you see somebody like, oh, he's better than me, much better than me, and I always think that film portrays envy very well. Yeah. F. Murray Abraham, and there's a great Scaglieri, and he has a great line at the end. He goes like, bow to me, because he's in an insane asylum, and he's being wheeled out in his little makeshift wheelchair throughout all the crazy people. He goes like, hello, my subjects, hello, bow to the god of mediocrity, for I am he. And I'm just like, oh, that stings. It always makes you think, like, am I going to do anything? He worked his whole life, and he did great music, but he happened to live when the greatest composer alive
I was going to say, always in the shadow, not by his own, because of his own,
Like, he wasn't bad, but he just wasn't Mozart. It's like it would be like us trying to do plays, and Tennessee Williams is right next door. There was a play. This play is newer, and it's by a writer I like very much. You've probably seen his work, Tracy Letts.
Yes.
He did August Osage County, which was made into a decent movie.
I saw that over and over in New York. And
really?
That's a 3.5 hour experience. I think I saw 21 hours of that play somehow.
Oh, wow.
It's phenomenal on stage.
Right.
On stage. The film, I don't know if the film is good because I had that experience so often. Trust me, I do not go to the theater over and over to see a 3.5 hour play. If it's not spectacular.
Right.
And it was, and the film was just not that live experience that I got, and it was okay, but the performances were just electrifying on stage, whereas on screen it just seemed subdued, all of it to me. But go ahead, I don't want to.
No, not at all. Tracy Letts won the Pulitzer for that. He's also a working actor who's been in several good things. Ford versus Ferrari. I remember him playing Henry Ford II. I thought he was very good in that. Yeah. He's also married to what's her name? She's so great in The Leftovers. Carrie Coon is her name.
Oh yeah,
Carrie Coon.
She was great in one of the Fargo seasons.
Yes, she was. She was the lead in one of the Fargo. I think it was the 3rd season. She was really good in that. Yeah. But Fargo is always amazing. They're going to do a 5th season with John Hamm. Very much looking forward to that.
Oh,
yes.
Good.
But you saw this play, Mita. this Tracy Let's Play that I'm referring to. It's called Killer Joe. Tell us about your experience seeing Killer Joe. You talked about this before.
Killer Joe. I went to see it. I had gotten where we went to go see shows up in Raleigh at a theater company called Raleigh Ensemble Players, who are now no longer, sadly. But they used to do some very cutting edge, avant-garde kind of stuff. Killer Joe is about this god-awful, horrible family who live in a trailer. And the boy, the son, he lives with his dad and stepmother, and they're his little sister, who's very innocent and slightly simple, I guess is a good way to put it. She's very naive, if nothing else.
You ever seen that movie called Baby Doll?
Yeah.
She's like Baby Doll.
And so, so the boy gets in trouble and owes somebody some money, and he goes to his mother, and his mother tells him he's on his own. She's tired of bailing him out for stuff. So he goes over to his dad's house all beaten up, and they decide that what they're going to do is they're going to hire a hitman on credit and have them kill his mom so that they can get the insurance money to pay off this kid's debt. And they're going to pay the hitman when the insurance money comes through. So he's going to have to do the deed first, which is not really how you get a hitman.
Right.
So they get this hitman to come, and somehow he takes a liking to the sister, and he'll do it as long as he can spend time with the sister. And at some point in the middle of it, spoilers or whatnot, the family decides they don't want to go through with it, but now he's put all this time in. And in the movie, it's Woody Harrelson.
No, Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey. Is it Matthew McConaughey?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Woody Harrelson for some reason. But in the movie, it's somebody you know. In the play at Raleigh Ensemble Players was this very, very large, very handsome, very buff African-American dude. And he shows up in part of the play completely naked when he comes out of the bedroom with the sister, who's also completely naked.
Right.
And he basically
What were they doing in the bedroom?
Luckily it was off stage, so I'm not really sure. I think they were playing
No
cards.
one will ever know. No one will ever know.
It was called Art Space in downtown Raleigh, and they had a big room, and they always changed it up how they did their shows in the space. And this one, they had the trailer built in the middle of the room, and they had half the audience on one side and half the audience on the other, and it was built like they had peeled the skin off of a trailer.
Okay.
So you had like the kitchen and the living room of a trailer with all of the beams and like support systems and everything. And then off on one end was a doorway that went to the bedrooms on that end, and then there was the hallway that went to the, if you've ever been in a single wide trailer, you know what I'm talking about. The side we were sitting on was the side where the kitchen came around in the sink, and then there was a little bar area. And when he comes out and the climax of the movie or the show, he comes out and they get in a big fight, and he ends up throwing the kid into the bar, like this little I don't know, where the counter comes off and it's got a pillar holding it up. He throws it in, it breaks. He grabs the post and he chases that kid up into the refrigerator and beats him to death with the post, just whacking on him. From where we're sitting, you can't see the refrigerator. I realized suddenly the people on the other side could see the refrigerator. I look over there, and there is a woman. Her eyes are as big as saucers, and she is curled up in her seat with a look of horror on her face. I was surprised. I really didn't think they were going to come out for curtain call. It really was that brutal. It was crazy. It was just nakedness, violence. It was pretty intense, actually. So.
Yeah, the movie was less successful. It was like a little direct to DVD. It had Matthew McConaughey before he got really big again, McConaissance, if you will. And it had Emil Hirsch as the boy, Gina Gershon as the mother, and Juno Temple, who still does stuff. I saw her in Ted Lasso. She's the she's the blonde in Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Keely. What's another play that is now a movie that you really enjoy?
This goes obviously back to the 60s on this one. But Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
I knew you were going to say that one.
Is in my top 10 films. I love that film. And the thing about it is, we don't have to talk about what that's about. It's a pretty well-known film. But if you've not seen it, see it. It's Mike Nichols' first directing
Love Mike Nichols.
Directed film.
It's horribly uncomfortable, though, when you watch it, just because these people are horrible people.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
they are, but that was what I guess he was trying to get to. We won't talk about things and what it's about, but...
The point is, the point of it
tell
is
me why I shouldn't be...
They are miserable people who want to make everybody else miserable, but that's the point of the story.
Tell me how they're redeemed then, DH, because maybe...
I don't know if they are. I don't know if that is something that we have to have. I think that's part of what Albee was trying to say after, But I do know that what interests me about that is there's a certain thing about it that a lot of films, because films based on plays are usually set in a room, one room, for the most part, a lot of them. And when you go to film, you have to flesh it out, and sometimes they go visit other places, or they do flashbacks if they're talking about something. But for the most part, they're stuck in a room. And it feels a little bit, I know a lot of people find it a little bit confined and, what's
stagnant.
the word? Yeah. And claustrophobic, or just it just feels slow because it just can't go anywhere and do anything. But if you have a good director, like Mike Nichols was, who was a new director who had never directed before, came out of theater and stand-up.
Yeah, he did it. Yeah,
he didn't know what you couldn't do. I remember I heard a story about how he was shooting a shot where he had the camera in the doorway, and they're supposed to open the door and be standing in the doorway. And he said, "What do we do?" He was asking some technical person that was sort of guiding him on some things. He said, "What do we do? We can't get the door open." And the guy, I don't know, sound guy, somebody said, I don't know who it was, producer maybe, "Just move the camera back a foot."
And zoom in.
So you get that kind of I don't know, a director who doesn't know something like that. But when he was working at his best on that film, he makes that movie move.
Yeah.
I mean, from the lighting of a cigarette to the pouring of a drink to an ice cube plopping in a glass to it going up to somebody's mouth to somebody turning around. I mean, it's a whirlwind of camera work on it, and it makes it very exciting to watch. There's another film around the same time, I think the year, maybe it was the same year, 1966, 65, 1,000 Clowns. Do you know 1,000 Clowns? I think I saw it on your wall somewhere.
We
down
did
in
it
the theater.
way back a long time ago.
Herb Gardner play. And sort of an anti-establishment comedy about a man who was a television writer for a children's show, and he can't stand it anymore. So he quits. He gives up, and I guess he's living on unemployment, and he doesn't do anything. Well, he becomes the guardian for his nephew. And social services come to say, you can't take care of this kid because he's not going to school, and you don't even have a job. So it's about him searching for a job. And it's in one apartment, sort of a studio apartment. But when they go outside for some of the dialogue, they walk through parks and down the streets and go see statues in town and stuff, while some of the dialogue goes. What happens once it leaves that, it becomes like a French New Wave film. It's got these jump cuts and these bizarre music sound cues.
Like Breathless.
Yeah, and it's like, what is happening? This is a totally different film on the outside.
French New Wave, it's like Godard and stuff.
Louis Malle started that. And
basically, it's a way of making your movie more exciting through editing that you...
Gotcha.
And
a lot of cinema verite, handheld cameras, and it was just... and it also had a lot to do with social change.
Tarantino does this a lot. He steals this a lot. Not steal, but homage. The excitement of the mundane.
Gotcha.
The excitement of going to get a burger and fries, and how glorious it is to be free to go get a burger and fries, and that type of thing.
Gotcha.
So the film, because the director, Fred Coe, knew how to do something different than you just film them talking in a room, and it becomes an exciting thing to watch, even though it's just dialogue with some camera movement. So Virginia Woolf, that, I'm blanking. But those are the two I think that have the best camera work that I can think of. Fences had some really good camera work going on a couple years ago. And once again,
you have to have. That's how you make the movie. How you make those dialogue scenes become like action sequences. Is that dynamic camera work and editing?
Yeah, because I mean the problem with it is on stage it works when you're in one place and all the action happens in this particular space. But yeah, with movies people expect it to be bigger.
Yeah, you got to flesh it out. You can go around the world and back in 2 seconds.
Well, they didn't.
You can see anything, but in plays, you're in a room.
And Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? They didn't. They didn't go to the. Did they go to the?
They do leave one time. They go out in the yard.
But they don't go to the bar.
But they do go to the bar in the film.
Yeah.
They do the game of get the guests and hump the hostess. I think that game. Anyway, you know the play. That's some of the crazy bits of it.
Right.
They do go down the road to a local bar.
Yeah.
And do that. And
it's crazy that Mike Nichols was the director. That was his first movie. His second movie, for a long time, was my favorite movie of all time. I don't know about now.
Oh yeah.
The Graduate. I love The Graduate. I've seen the play of The Graduate, although it was not a play first. It was a book first.
How about, here's another one. 12 Angry Men, which reminded me.
Not based on a play.
It was a teleplay. Then he made it into a play in London, and then
Henry Fonda saw it. Yeah.
And then Fonda saw the television. Anyway, when they made it, but I guess it technically counts as it was a teleplay.
I've actually seen on my wonderful, beautiful Criterion Blu-ray of 12 Angry Men. You can see the full TV special of the first.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to make out, but it's there.
Yeah.
And all the dialogue's the same, almost.
But there's another. It's a very riveting thing on film.
Because Sidney Lumet, that was his first film. Sidney Lumet, he went on to direct Dog Day Afternoon. He would bring in the set. On the shooting schedule, they shot that movie in sequence, which is rare for a movie. So as the shooting progressed, he would bring in the walls of the set inch by inch.
That claustrophobic feel, yeah. Well, and I mean, the interesting thing, because we've done 12 Angry Men, and we did it 12 Angry Men with all men in the period time and everything. The difficulty with doing that even on stage is just to make it interesting to watch, because just 12 guys trapped in a room.
Right.
You know, and it's the only poor soul that can come in and out at any point is the bailiff, and he's bringing stuff in and out.
Right.
But yeah, they're sort of stuck, and it's to figure out.
You have a water cooler. You can get some water.
There's a window.
Is there a storm in the play?
No.
I did a production where maybe the director chose to make it rain or so we sort of got up and we could open and close the windows a little bit
they do
or something.
fuss about the window. I mean, they open it, they close it because there's a hot.
I remember this.
But there's a breeze and it's blowing on one of them. They get in a fight about it. But it's hard because you have to have levels.
Yeah.
Or else everybody's just sitting at a table.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard.
Last Supper style.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
You have to get people standing and bending and kneeling. You know, you have to figure out where to put people so that visually you're not bored. So yeah, that was the hard part of doing it on stage. So
what do you think of Steel Magnolias?
Okay, I was going to bring up that earlier. I have a weird connection to Steel Magnolias.
Oh,
what
Lord.
is that?
No, I love Steel Magnolias. I love Steel Magnolias. It's probably the play
as a film.
Yes,
play, right.
As a film and a play.
Yeah.
I love them both. I've seen the film literally 50 times because I was raised in a house mostly of Southern women, so that movie came up a lot, and it became a comfort movie after a while. So I've seen it many times, and I've seen the play probably more versions of any other play than I've seen. I've seen it like 4 times.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it. It's to me, some people might disagree, but to me, that is the ultimate version, the best version of a quote-unquote Jones Hope Whoop-ness play. That's the pinnacle.
Right.
I think all these other plays that are about the Southern culture and Southern women
Right.
and sweet Savannah Sipping Society, whatever they're calling Dixie Swing Club now, all these plays are trying to be as good as Steel Magnolias, and none of them are even close.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about Steel Magnolias.
The flaw with Steel Magnolias, every time I've ever seen it done on stage, and any play that has become a movie and now people want to do it as a play again, the problem is if it's very popular like Steel Magnolias, people want to do Sally Fields.
Yeah.
When they play Milan, it's like, don't do it like Sally Field.
Yeah.
It's like, don't be this other person. Find your own character in this.
Sure. I mean, and can you imagine any actor who has played Stanley Kowalski
Yeah.
after Brando screaming Stella? Like, how do you
do it?
scream that name out without going, here comes the Brando?
Yeah, it would be very
Most
difficult.
famous things
Right.
ever out of an actor's mouth on screen.
They go into that in this great documentary I've been watching called The Last Movie Stars about Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. And Paul Newman and eventually Joanne Woodward was part of the Actors Studio, Lee Strasberg Institute down there in New York with, Marlon Brando, Eugene Seberg, all the later heavy hitters and how they explain how Marlon Brando saying Stella, that changed acting, that changed everything. Before acting was just like, okay, where's my mark? Here's my lines. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da, dame, slap. And then Lee Strasberg kind of injected it kind of, you have to, and also, and it's getting backlash now because a lot of people are kind of speaking against method acting. And which is interesting. Interesting notion I find today about how, because method acting is kind of inhabiting the character and becoming the character, living as the character, living as Stanley Kowalski. I am Stanley. His experiences are my experiences. If I'm moving my hand as Stanley, not Marlon Brando,
Right.
that type of deal, which can be exhausting for you and other people.
Well, I was going to say, and there are actors who I feel it takes it into the realm of possibly having a mental disorder of some
Like
sort.
Jim Carrey and Andy Kaufman.
Because they basically they allow this thing to possess them and they become somebody else. I mean, I understand the appeal to it because you get to understand the character and the person or whatever, but there is a fine line between, brilliance and madness.
How do you do that? If you're going to do that method,
Don't ask me.
and play somebody like Martha in Virginia Woolf,
Right.
Yeah,
you would go
destroy yourself.
insane.
You destroy
Yes.
yourself, yeah, and a lot of people have.
I'm thinking you can't take that home with you.
But
Nobody wants to be around
that's the whole
you.
idea, is that you do take it home
Right.
with you.
or Killer Joe, the character
Yeah.
with the stick in the refrigerator.
Jim Carrey, when he
Right.
played Andy Kaufman in the 1999 movie Man on the Moon, there's a great documentary about it called Jim and Andy on Netflix. When he played Andy Kaufman for 6 months, he woke up as Andy Kaufman. He went to bed as Andy Kaufman. When he was going into the car to go back to his hotel, he was going into that car as Andy Kaufman. His Andy Kaufman's family showed up to the set. His father, his mother, and he would hug them as Mom and Dad, and they would have true healing moments that they never had with their real life son because he's dead, because Andy Kaufman had inhabited Jim Carrey so much. It's wild to
Weird.
see. There's one moment, because the director of that film is Milos Forman, who directed Amadeus.
Yes.
Two-time Academy Award-winning director. He directed Amadeus. He directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Classic.
Yeah.
This guy knows what he's doing. But he does not know what to do with Jim Carrey being Andy Kaufman. So he would call. The only way he could break from Andy Kaufman is that he could be over the phone, like talking to his agent or something.
Right.
Business. So he would call Jim Carrey, and he would ask what he should do with this guy playing Andy Kaufman. And Jim Carrey would go so far as to say, Milos, if this is really a problem, I mean, I could come in and film a couple of days or something like that. And it's the same guy. It's him. It's him.
Crazy.
And he would hang up the phone and boom, I'm Andy Kaufman again. Let's go wrestle. Let's go.
Yeah, that's-
Here I am to save the day.
That's borderline.
But for 2 hours, that film is fascinating.
It's
to
great.
watch. It's
great.
It's damn great to watch. It really is.
But watching him hug Andy Kaufman's father and him crying on his shoulder saying, I'm sorry, son, it's just whoa.
Right.
Whoa.
It's a little much.
Yeah, and Jared Leto, and people abuse it, like Jared Leto nowadays. Like if you play somebody in a wheelchair, you have to carry him around on set and that type of bullshit.
Right.
Anyways,
Sometimes you wonder if maybe I'm going method with this, and it's like that's just so you can get away with being an asshole.
yeah, Clint Eastwood won't do. I think he might have retired by now because he's freaking 90. But Clint Eastwood doesn't like it. He would not work with people who do
Right.
method acting because just try acting, try faking it. I want to go home at the end of the day. I want to go home at 5 o'clock.
And I say this to those who want to come and audition for a show, and in the immortal words of Tony Pender, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Because
You can make it hard.
Oh yeah, that's his point. He'll walk out of rehearsal sometimes and go, "What the hell?"
Haven't we all, Darryl?
It's not that hard.
Haven't we all?
It's like because sometimes people who've never been on stage before feel the need to act. I need to act, and it's like,
Work from where you are and know what you want.
There you
Right.
go.
And be heard.
Be loud or project.
Yeah. And ask for more money.
I was waiting for you to ask me my movie from a script, and I was like, I can't think of any that I love,
Yeah.
but Proof.
Proof.
Yeah, with David Auburn. By David Auburn.
I
excuse
love
me.
the play.
Yeah.
I was not a big fan of the movie.
That happens a lot. Rabbit Hole, same way.
Oh yeah, and Rabbit Hole was a movie. Yeah, I loved Rabbit Hole.
I find
Not a big fan
that
of the play.
in a lot of scripts that go to film, I enjoy the performances more than the film itself.
Yeah.
But you can find delicious performances from people from play scripts. And, wait, let me throw one more in.
Okay.
Glenn Ross. Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
I would love to see a version of All Women do that one day. I love Glenn Ross. In fact, when I was in my younger days, that was probably a play I suggested to NLT when I was like a teenager in high school. I know, a teenager reading David Mamet. How times have changed. How times have changed.
I was
And
gonna say, it seems like somebody locally did that years ago.
female
Version of
yeah,
it.
no, it's not an
Right.
original idea.
But I couldn't tell you who it was at this point.
But Glenn Ross is awesome. I do enjoy it, but I've never seen it live. I've only seen the movie and I've read the play.
I think you see it very often.
It's got a lot of language in it. It's
language, like the English language?
anyways, we're going to put a pin in it there, folks, before we go over time. But this has been a fascinating conversation through and through. I can't wait to listen to this on the edit because I have really no idea what we talked about. I think it's all been like a fever dream. Again.
That's what happens when it's warm.
All right. Thank you for joining us, DH.
Thank you very much for having me again. It was
Trekking
fun.
from Benson. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
For my producer, Mita Toole,
Hello.
we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Credits for the show. Your host and creator is Matt Gore. That's me. My producer and editor is Mita Toole.
That's me.
Music is by Cody Walker. Please go look up Cody on Cody Walker Music on YouTube, and he's also on Cody Walker Music on Facebook as well. He's local, so and he's got a couple of albums out. Easy listening, John Denver type of guitar voice. That Cody Walker. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.